Hi, everyone. Welcome back to It's All Light. I'm your host, Natalie Baugh. And today I'm so excited. I have a dear friend with me, Simona Love.
Hi everyone.
So, Sima and I met on my mission. She is from Leningrad, Russia. And I worked in Young Women's, and she was one of the young women in Leningrad, my first area on my mission. And we became fast friends and have been friends ever since.
Yes, I remember that I just loved your curly hair, and that was like the first thing that like distinguished you from everyone else. I was like, oh my gosh, she's gorgeous.
You always are just this kindest, sweetest person. And today we'll dive in deeper to what she's passionate about, but and hint, she exemplifies this trait so well. And I cannot wait to learn from Sima. So her name's Simona, but we call her Sima.
Yeah, yeah. I often tell people that, oh, it's like Simba without B, and it's easier to remember.
Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah. So, and her maiden name is Yerosheva. I think it's a beautiful
Yeah,
name.
yeah, Yershova, and
Yeroshova.
it was fun to be Yershova, but uh, it was harder for people to say
Pronounce.
and remember. So being Simona Love is great.
Yeah, she got married. How long ago did you get married, Sima?
Almost 6 months ago.
6 months ago, and she married
Yeah.
Mr. Love.
Yes.
Yeah, they're such a fun couple. And how did you meet again?
It was actually it's a really funny story. I never wanted to use like online dating apps. My friend was just like, "Come on, let's do it. It's gonna be fun. We can swipe again." And I was like, "Sure, that sounds fun." So I did it, and so I completed my profile, and it needs a couple days to get verified. So I kind of forgot about it for a couple days, and then I just got a DM from him on Instagram from Kid in Love saying, "Hey, I saw a mutual. Would you like to go out?" And I was like, "Oh, mutual works fast, sure." So
Oh,
technically, he is the first person I met in mutual even before I started swiping.
that's amazing. Wait, I wish we all had luck like yours.
Yes, I
That's
get
so
lucky.
fun. Well,
Uh,
I love that. So tell us a little bit about Leningrad for our listeners here to get to know you better.
oh yeah, so Leningrad is an official part of Moscow, but at the same time, it's kind of physically not part of it. Which is great because we get free transportation to Moscow. Not free, but it's cheap.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, it's like this secluded place with a lot of trees. It's very
Mm-hmm.
green, and yeah, I love it.
It yeah, Leningrad means green city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I that was my first introduction to Russia where I first lived, and I loved that little city so much. And
Hmm.
especially the people there. It's an amazing branch filled with just like people like Sima, just great, amazing people. So, anything else about yourself that you think people would love to know? I mean, you're more unique than all my listeners. All my other listeners have been from America, and you're from Russia. Like you bring so much to the table, like different background and perspective. I can't wait to
Hmm.
dive in more, but tell us a little bit more about you.
Okay, well, I'm passionate about a lot of things, as you guys will hear probably in this podcast. But I guess one of my main passions is art. This is what I'm studying.
Oh, she's the
Um,
best artist. Literally so talented.
Stop it. Yeah, I love illustration and I love animation, and I hope to work in visual development and
Yeah.
animation one
I'll
day.
post her Instagram and her art Instagram so you guys can follow and see her beautiful illustrations. She's so talented. Oh, I love that.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you have your parents and they still live in Russia and then a brother, right?
Mhm, mhm, yeah,
Yeah.
they're still in Russia, but they moved to St. Petersburg.
Oh yeah, they moved to St. Petersburg. We'll have to go visit. Take me with you when you go back.
Yay!
when the world becomes more peaceful over there, unfortunately.
Yes, yes.
But so Sima, you have a few things you're passionate about. Tell us a little bit more about those few things and then we'll dive into the first one.
Okay. So yeah, I would say the main thing, how I can kind of summarize it all, is I love making an impact in the world that is good, and I love making it kind of global and meaningful.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm really passionate about charity, meaning not only characteristic charity, but also just donating money to whatever cause you believe is important and meaningful,
Mm.
and living in such a way that leaves a positive impact on the world rather than negative, which means like environmental sustainability and things like that.
Yeah. When you said environmental sustainability, I was so curious to know what that means and what that looks like for you. So, this will just be the first segment because then we'll jump into charity because I been studying that, and I'm so excited to hear
Mhm.
your thoughts. But tell us a little bit more about your passion for environmental sustainability.
Uh-huh. Okay. Um, oh my gosh, there's so many things to environmental sustainability, and I guess I can start with like the motivation for it.
Yeah.
And I believe that, of course, like it's good to live environmentally sustainable life, because we care about our grandchildren and what kind of world they will live in. Um, but also, I believe that we can even overcome this kind of consequence based motivation and be sustainability friendly just because it's the right thing to do.
Mm,
It's a divine thing to do, to treat the whole earth as if it's a living creature with a soul and with the right to be treated well.
I think that's beautiful. Our earth really is a living, beautiful thing. And the more we take care of it, the better it will be for generations to come. Amen.
Hmm.
So what are
Hmm.
ways that you do this and incorporate this into your life?
Actually, there are so many ways, and I'll mention it more at the end, because actually, many things you can do to live more environmentally sustainable life will also save you money, which you then can use for charity.
I love
It's a great
it. It
combination.
all works. Yes. Okay. I
Yeah.
can't wait to hear more about those. So
Hmm.
now tell us this, a little bit more about charity and how you grew this passion in your life.
Hmm. Okay. Um, Ever since I was a child, I always knew I will donate to charity when I grow up. I will be
Mm,
like, when I have my own house, I will like, and you know, I will be taken care of. I'll just set aside like extra 10% from my wage and just give it to charities every month. And I was so excited about it. And then, you know, it was just like a dream that would,
wow.
I guess, become true in the future. But then things kind of changed when I remember there, I don't know, just like in recent couple of years, many things have happened in the world that made it necessary for people to donate to charities. I remember,
Hmm.
um, even so, like, as you guys know, I'm from Russia, but I'm actually half Ukrainian. My mom's side is all from Ukraine, and when the war started over there in February last year, it was a big thing. And even before that, I remember there was also some big refugee, not conflicts was the word, big refugee,
Like
um,
groups or
ah, a lot of,
communities?
yes, a lot of refugee communities even before that. And I kind of started to get into that, into charity a little bit. Then I was like, oh my gosh, these refugees need help right now. And
Yeah.
I remember distinctly, I was like, okay, I want to donate. And I was like, what can I donate that is like I can spare? And I was like, $7. I can spare $7. So I remember I would like donate $7 to different charities like rescue.org, or other, like a couple, I don't know, maybe every month or something. I started doing that. And
That's
then
awesome.
after, thank you. And because I was like, I can spare that. And then when the war started and there are all these Ukrainian refugees that need help right now, I was like, no,
Mm,
like I can't wait until I'm like have my house and taken care of. I need to start doing charity right now because they need help right now. And
mm.
I remember I started slowly increasing the amount I was donating. So like I was doing $10 per month, and then I was doing 15 and 20, and
Wow.
and then I was like, well, I can do it on my own, but I need to include other, like invite other people so that together we can make a bigger impact. So I started doing little fundraisers through like my art and other things. And
You're
this way,
amazing. Yeah.
oh, thank you. And this way I was like able to raise more. And as I was doing this, I just realized that like you don't have to wait for the future. You don't have to
Mm,
say I will develop this habit in when I'm middle aged. Like you can start developing habit of donating to charities when you're young, and you don't have to start big. You can start at $7 or $3 or whatever. And as you do it more and more, you'll be more and more comfortable with that,
oh,
and
I love that.
make more and more impact.
Oh, I love that. When I first read that you wanted to talk about charity, my mind went to just like the Christ-like attribute. But
Mhm.
the more we talk about it in this light, the more it's like they could be synonymous. Like
Mhm,
the
mhm,
pure love of Christ is serving and caring for others and doing all we can to give and love. I I'm so glad we're talking about this because this is something I
mhm,
want to increase in my life, especially when the war broke out. I was like, how can I give? Who can I give to? Because I have been so blessed with my life and I can't imagine what they're going through over there. And I just want, like, I have things to give,
mhm,
like I
mhm,
have a job, I'm not starving, I have a place to live,
mhm, mhm,
like you were saying, like I don't need to have so much to give. I can just give what I can right now. So I
mhm,
love that you brought that up. And I think at the end we can talk about too those different places you would recommend donating to.
mhm,
I think sometimes it's good to verify and also
mhm,
know what your money's going to be put for. I think is helpful.
mhm.
Um but why do you think you care about this so much? Like you said, it started from a young age. And I know, me knowing you, you are just so loving and so caring to everyone. But how can others develop this type of passion for charity?
Um, I I believe everything meaningful starts on a very spiritual, transcendental, or emotional, or whatever people call it level. Um, and actually, I'm in a really cool class right now, and we're reading a lot of philosophers, and one of them said a really cool quote. I'm going to paraphrase it. It's his name is Leopold, and in his essay called "The Land Ethics," which is also on environment, he said this. Um, and I'm not gonna say it the way he said it, but it was something along the lines with any meaningful change that has ever happened in the world started with the change in people's perspectives, motivations, and priorities. So basically, he
Mm,
said that everything meaningful that we change on the outside starts on the inside. So, yeah, I believe that. mm, all these things like caring for people in other countries that we've never seen or caring for environment that you can kind of see that it needs help but not really yet, it can all start with just um, accepting that if you don't see it and if it doesn't impact your life directly doesn't mean that it doesn't matter, and
mm,
that every living creature on the whole earth and on even a non-living creature is important to God, and that if it's important to God, it should be important to you because we're trying to be like Him. And
mm.
yeah, so this turning outward and not only caring about your life, but also everything, everyone, and everything else.
Wow. And that's what charity is, right?
Mhm.
Looking
Yeah.
outward. I think one of my favorite talks was in the MTC. They would play a Sunday night movie or they would play Characters of Christ by Elder Bednar. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like really hard to find online. Like I've tried to search for it, but he just talks about Christ's character was always looking outward toward others and Christ
Mm-hmm.
embodies charity. And when we're
Mm-hmm.
doing that, then we start to think about charities that we can donate to or be a part of or go serve more at different
Mm-hmm.
centers. But I also love to remind myself. There was a conference talk and it was like, yeah, that's great that you went and did a humanitarian trip across the world, but walk across the street and serve your neighbor. Like
Mm-hmm.
I love humanitarian trips and I hope to do more of them in my life, but like give what you can right now. Like you don't have to put in a ton of money to go across the world. You can literally make dinner for your neighbor and take it to her. And that's another form of giving in these
Mm-hmm.
charity in this way of charity. Sorry, that didn't really make sense. In a
No, it does.
charitable way. Sometimes I get talking
Yeah.
and I'm like, wait, that made no sense. But Seema, do you have an example or a story regarding charity and how it impacted your life?
Actually, as you were saying things about Christ, I did have guess, a story in mind, but it's not about me. It's about Christ.
Oh, let's hear it.
Um, I just remember that the way Christ served people wasn't in the way most often, or sometimes, I don't know, it wasn't in a way that he wanted them to be served, but it was the way they needed to be served. And let me explain what I mean. For example, he sees this leper, and Christ knows that, like, what that this leper and like his life are not as important as his spirit and soul. And like I guess in my mind I'm thinking that probably Christ would like look at this leper and be like, oh, I wish I could just like tell them that like, oh, just believe in God, and when you die everything's gonna be fine, and just just live a good life. And this is, I guess, what he the way he wanted them to serve them, but still he did it the way they needed it. So he
Mm,
would heal the lepers, even though he knew that it maybe in the eternity this healing probably wouldn't play as much of a importance as conversion or increased faith. But he still
mm,
healed them because this is what they needed. And I think this exemplifies how we should serve, because I feel like sometimes we have good intentions, like we want to serve, but then we do it
mm-hmm.
in a way that we want to do it. For example, like, I don't want to
Yeah.
shame anyone, but I just remember I went on a double date to do like a service project, and I was like so excited. I was like, oh, it's service, I like service. And then we got there, and the service was, there were these blankets, and we would just cut them on the sides and then tie them into knots. And I just could not understand how will this help these people, because we weren't even tying the blankets together. It was just one blanket, and we were just tying knots. And I could not understand, because usually, like, the reason you tie them in knots is to connect a couple of blankets so that they can be warmer, but we weren't even doing that. So it decreased the size of a blanket technically. And
Oh no.
what good did it do? It
Mm.
just made us feel good, like, oh, we're serving. And I feel like
Mm.
sometimes we do that kind of service. We do
Mm-hmm.
service that we're like, oh, I did it with my own hands. I saw the person I helped. And
Mm.
maybe that's why sometimes it's harder to do international service and donate to other countries when people need help a lot more than maybe your neighbor that you brought cookies for. Like, and I don't want to say that bringing cookies to your neighbor is a bad service. It's still good service, but just compared to the impact you could make with the same
Mm.
effort in another country is just, it's crazy how big of an impact you can make, actually.
Putting some more time and resources toward that. So,
And yeah,
oh, go ahead.
oh no, I just wanted to say that uh, we don't see the result, we don't see the person we helped, and maybe that's why we don't do it. Sometimes I think it's less
Mm.
valid than doing something with your own hands. I don't know.
No, I think that's totally a good point. And I've totally grown up doing those little service projects. And you said blanks. I'm like, oh, yeah, I think everyone's done that at
That's a
least
good
once or
start. That's a good
twice.
start. It's not
And no,
bad.
yeah, every little drop counts. But I totally agree with you in the sense that, like, I feel like for me, I want to take that extra step and learn about the needs and like anywhere in the world and how you can do more meaningful service that will leave a
Hmm.
bigger impact. Like I think with like homeless people on the streets too, we're encouraged not to give things to them in a sense because there's systems in place. There are homeless shelters and they have tons of food and resources, but these people like some people even fake it because they can make a lot of money asking for money on the side of the road. And for me, my parents kind of taught me maybe not money, but give them food or drink. So I
Hmm.
used to have like little packs in my car of like granola bars and a water bottle, which I think that
Hmm.
would be a good activity too, just to give people some sustenance as they are going through whatever they're going through. But how do you go about finding charities to donate to more on like a global view? There's
Hmm.
always different service we can do here, but looking outward globally, what resources have you found that have been helpful to find what charities you want to give to?
Yeah, I feel like it all starts with what is important to us. For example, how I started it, I wanted to help people in Ukraine. So, research is always a great start for that. So, I did
Mm-hmm.
some research, what charities did what, and which charities did I want to donate to. And I found a couple that I thought were really good, and I just focused on them. And it was so one of them actually was organized by my friend.
Mm.
She's a member from Ukraine, and she used to live in Provo, but after the war started, she literally left her life here, went to Ukraine, started a charity there,
Wow.
and that like helps people with whatever they need. So they just have find a community. Oh, actually, how they started, they just hosted refugees in their church building and just
Mm.
made them food, and this is how they started. But then they actually started buying big packs of like medical supplies and water and bringing it to nearby communities that needed it. So I started donating that charity, and then I also found another in nearby countries next to Ukraine
Mm-hmm.
that were hosting refugees there. And I was like, yeah, I wish I was in that country helping them. I can't, so I'll
Mm-hmm.
send them money. And I found a couple charities in different countries like Georgia and etc.
Yeah.
And, and this is how it started.
I'll get that information from you and post it in our show notes. So if you
Mhm.
want to donate, we would
Oh
accept all
yeah. Hmm.
donations. And I am excited too. Like I have never really thought about like giving a monthly percentage, but I think that is such a great place to start, and it doesn't have to be much at first. Like do what you can, but I'll post that information so if you want to join me and Sima and trying to be more charitable in your life, like Sima said, you might not see the direct person or result, but you can be assured knowing that it is going somewhere good. I love
Hmm.
that. What other charities have you donated to before? How did you find them? I'm just curious to know more about this passion of yours and how it's grown.
Hmm. So yeah, actually, it's a really good question because I feel like a lot of people don't donate because they're afraid that these charities are not legit or they're gonna like I don't know not use money very well.
Mm,
So it's important to put in research so that when you're donating, you can be confident that it will go to the cause
yeah.
and you can have peace of mind. So yeah, I for the smaller ones that I mentioned before, yeah, I just did some research and I knew that they were legit because people were sharing and their Instagrams, they posted everything they did and people were supporting them in comments. So like I could tell that a lot of people see what they do and I could see what they do. And sometimes when you like can't really see or like find out it that way, it's safer to just donate to bigger charities that are internationally accepted and that have been around for a long time. They are
Mm-hmm.
always a good option. So for example, before Ukraine, I remember there were refugees from Afghanistan, and this is when I said that I started donating like $7. And I remember that I was donating to um, International Rescue Committee or rescue.org. They are a very big charity and they take care of multiple crises across the world simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
So they help both Afghanistan refugees and Ukraine refugees, and I think now even Iranian refugees.
Wow.
They are a good organization. Another big one is called World Vision. I think they are Christian based and
Mm-hmm.
they also like just, do whatever is needed in the world and focus on like different things. They're also very big and trustworthy charity. And yeah, and there are like some others that you can
Yeah.
just Google and find on like charity.org. There are like lists of good charities. If you just do some research, you will find for sure something that feels meaningful and trustworthy.
I love that. I also am remembering, if you're a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, on the tithing slip, you can make
Hmm.
charitable donations. And it used to
Hmm.
be categorized in different subjects, but I think now it all just goes to the one thing. But I think there was a conference talk in it too, just talking about how our church uses funds for charities. And
Hmm.
I worked for the International Center for Law and Religious Studies at BYU Law School, and we got to take a tour. I think with Sharon Eubank, who's over some humanitarian efforts in the church, and just hearing them talk about it. Like, I knew our church helped with things and the more of
Hmm.
those little like helping hand vests, but they went into a little bit more detail of all the things and resources our church is doing and giving. So I think for me that's a good place to start too. But when you're looking up these other charities to donate to, what are some things you look forward to verify that they're refutable? Is that the
Hmm.
word?
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, like I said, there is a website. I don't know. I think it's called charity.org, and
Okay.
it just like it's an organization that keeps track of charity organizations and like what they do, and you can find lists. For example, you can like Google charities to donate to help Ukrainian refugees, and then like you can find a good website that has a list. And usually, if charities make it into these kind of lists, it means that they're verified and they're
Variable.
trustworthy. Yeah.
Okay.
But also, I'm an advocate for donating to small charities too, because bigger ones they help where they can see a lot of help is needed, but they can't reach into every little town. They can't reach into every little place that needs help.
Mm,
So I also like donating to some smaller charities, like with the Ukrainian crisis, like I mentioned, Klyn Foundation, which is organized by my friend that I mentioned before.
yeah.
And with those, it's always good to check out their social media and what people comment. Because if social media is good in a sense that it's hard to hide secrets there, so
Mm,
if a charity is not reliable, you'll probably see it by that they don't post a lot or people comment that like, oh, don't trust them or kind of thing. But yeah, if they post what they do, if people are supporting them, they're probably good.
mm, I love that.
Mhm.
Um, I am curious to know more your thoughts on why should others know about this?
Mm. I you mean why people should,
Like,
donate to charities in the world?
yeah, and also w- like the point of the podcast is to help uplift people and
Mm,
learn about these passions
mhm,
and
mhm,
hopefully kind of resonate with some of these passions. But I feel like this one, I think if more people gave it, I mean, it would just make the world a better place. So
mhm,
I kind of
yeah,
want to hear your thoughts on why should
okay.
others know about giving to charities and how that impacts your
Mhm.
life. And
Oh,
you've
yeah.
already talked a lot about how donating really does make a difference in these people's lives and with
Mhm.
resources, but I want to hear a little bit more about just the why behind it all.
Okay, yeah. So, like you said just right now, first reason why it's important is because you'll help people, and, helping people and making sure people are taken care of, and not only people, maybe if you're very passionate about environment, donating to environment-based charities is also a good
Hmm.
thing. So yeah, it will help, which is good. But also, I feel like another thing that is very important with this mindset, and not only action, but also mindset, is
Mm,
it really helps you because a lot of my friends are right now going through this um, early 20s not an early 20s existential crisis where they're rethinking their purpose of life,
mm,
and I'm just seeing how important it is to not base your purpose of life in things that are fleeting, in
wow.
material things, especially because I feel like a lot of people kind of do that, and they're like, oh, I'm
Mm,
happy if I'm taken care of, if I have money for everything I need, and if I have money for what I want. And like, it's not a bad mindset, like it's good to be taken care of, but if you make your life's purpose centered on something that is so unstable,
mm,
it's not going to be good for you, especially if you're struggling. And I believe that donating to charities and making sure that you're doing good in the world, making that your purpose of life will really help you mentally too, because uh,
yeah.
you- yeah, as I said, it's more stable because you can always do something good. If you can't donate, you can still help someone. And if you can't donate, you can still live a like environmentally sustainable life, which was also a good thing. And just like not focusing on your happiness will make you even more happy because you'll be more focused on the outside. So I believe it helps you when you do that.
I believe that too. I mean, my mission was probably the happiest time in my life, definitely the hardest too, but it's because we were giving every day and serving
Hmm.
every day.
Hmm.
And it's been hard to replicate that, but the more we talk about it, the more we focus on it, the more we can make it a part of our lives. Thank you,
Hmm.
Sima.
Hmm.
So before we do our uplifting takeaways, let's talk about how to live an environmentally sustainable life.
Okay, yeah, that's a good transition because, as I mentioned before, if you can't donate, you can at least, live a sustainable life.
Start
And
somewhere,
and
right?
actually, when you live a sustainable life, you will have more money because a lot of things that you
Mm.
can do environment will save you money. Some won't, but some will. And I'll take about those that will. So, for
Mhm.
example, one thing that I noticed when I moved to America compared to Russia is that America was, I don't know how to explain it, not more capitalistic, but I don't know. It was more focused on buying than I feel like I saw people in Russia.
Mhm.
And I guess because people in Russia are just more poor in general than people in America, maybe that's why they don't like buy as much. But I just noticed that people um, here, and I don't want to trash America. I love America, but there is this thing that people in America buy a lot and throw away a lot, which is bad for two reasons. First, because by buying you support a lot of factories that are bad for environment, and second, by throwing away it's going to end up in a landfill. So first thing I
Mhm.
wanted to say is buy less. And a good rule is one in, one out, meaning if you want to buy something, for example, I want to buy a new skirt, I will not buy a new skirt until I one of my skirts is completely new, like it has like or for example, I will not buy a new makeup product until I finish another one. So
Mm.
keeping the same amount in your house by only buying when you know have to throw away something or lose something is a good rule. Will save you money.
Mm.
um, Let me think. Also, just making sure you're frugal when it comes to water and electricity. It will save you a little bit of money, but still, it's a good thing to do to make sure you know um, you're not taking like too long of a showers, or you're turning off water when you're brushing your teeth, or even like I don't know, if your shower is dripping, just put like a bucket under it so that you can collect this water and I don't know, water your plants with it or something.
Mm.
And making sure that you turn off lights when you don't need them, unplug appliances when you don't need them, because if you keep things plugged even if you don't use them, they still waste a little bit of energy, and I think it's called phantom power, so it's better to unplug things when you don't use them.
Good to know. I honestly, my landlord in Russia at one of our apartments always asked us to do that, and me and my companion were like, "What? That doesn't make sense." But it makes sense. It's true. Unplug your
Yeah.
appliances when you're not using them.
Yeah, and these just like a couple examples I mentioned that will save money and are better for the environment.
Yeah. I'm starting to learn more about sustainability for the environment. There's a new team at work called the Green Team, and it's just some people who are passionate about helping our earth, and so they
Mhm.
have stopped printing out flyers for meetings. It's all
Yeah,
electronic,
yeah. Uh-huh.
and we always make sure lights are off, and we're going to do like a contest who can carpool to work together. And
Mhm.
like I sit in their meetings sometimes and I'm just learning so much, and we're not buying plastic products anymore. We're all using our own bowls and washing our dishes and things like that instead. So it's really cool to learn more about this, and like you said, how it opens us up to have more, maybe even more time or resources to give to
Mhm.
others.
Mhm. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love that.
definitely.
Seema, you're so smart, and I honestly didn't know you were passionate about environmental sustainability, but I love hearing your thoughts about it and
Mhm.
where that comes from. In conclusion of this episode, let's talk about just an uplifting takeaway that you think people can benefit from.
Mhm. Well, I don't know. I feel like charities and uplifting in general, but
Oh,
but
totally.
if I can say something, is one good and interesting fact is that um, if you donate internationally, coming back to charity, you will actually make more of an impact than if you donated into America.
Mm,
That's an interesting thing, but because of the way dollar is in the as a currency in the world, for example, in America, for $4, you can buy, I don't know, this many gallons of milk. And if you have the same amount of dollars in Ukraine, for example, you can buy more gallons of milk for the same amount of
mm,
money. So when you donate internationally, you're actually making more impact just because.
the
It's
dollar
a dollar.
amount.
Yeah, and that's, like, an interesting fact, but it's true.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. For me, I feel like my uplifting takeaway is just to to have conversations about this with my friends and start asking, "Oh, do you donate to any charities? If so, like, which ones would you donate to?" And just and
Mhm,
make it more of a conversation. I have a group
mhm,
of friends too that goes and does some service projects too, and they just go help at the soup kitchen and different things like that. But
mhm,
just being a little bit more aware of how I can increase charity in my life and then
mhm,
be more charitable too. Um, on the form you filled out, there were a few more things that I want to share that you shared with us, and just questions to kind of ask yourself. What stops you from donating to charities, and how can you overcome those obstacles? And then just how the dollar makes more of an impact. You already talked about that. And then you already talked about ideas how to save money and be able to donate. And I just want to kind of reiterate something we talked about earlier. Just it doesn't have to be much. Just start somewhere. And like Sima said, like I think I had the same mentality too. It's like, oh yeah, when I'm older and have a good foundation and my needs are taken care of, then I can give more and be more charitable. But like my needs are taken care of now. I may not be flourishing in money and probably never will, but I have I have enough for what I need, and then the extra, like you said, even help the environment more. Stop buying more things and get rid of more things, maybe to charities and donate that way. But then also just stop buying as much and put that money toward people who need it more than I do.
mhm. Yeah, and actually, oh, I've remembered another big thing I wanted to mention.
Yes, please.
It's another way to be more sustainable and save money. And I just came up with this recently, and I'm so proud of it. So, like as I said, as you said, actually, Natalie, instead of just throwing away, try to just donate or repurpose, reuse. Reusing is a big thing of in environmental sustainability, and buying secondhand is a really good thing.
Mm,
So one thing I came up with is, for example, if you want something, um, I don't know, a new pair of jeans, and instead of just going and buying them where you're used to buying them, you go there, or I mean, you look it up online how much it costs. For example, let's say you it's $30 to buy a new pair of jeans, but instead you go and buy them secondhand, and secondhand they'll be like $7, let's say. So this way you're saving like how much? $23.
mhm.
And now you have a pair of jeans that you bought sustainably, and you have these $23 that you didn't spend that you can donate to charity. So you'll take the difference between what it would have been if you bought a new thing
Mm,
versus what you actually bought secondhand, and then you donate that difference. And this way, you still get what you want, and you donate to charity at the same time.
that's beautiful. I love it. On that note, everyone just think a little bit more about this in your life. Can you be more environmentally sustainable? Or how, yeah, I think that's how you word it, environmentally sustainable, and how you can be more charitable in your life. And remember that you can just start small. And SEMA is a great resource if you have questions. I'll post those charities that SEMA is passionate about and that I am too, especially with the world and the refugees over in Ukraine and Russia right now. So I'll post those in the show notes. Please look into them and maybe find one too that you're passionate about, and just put aside some money every month and shop less. It's hard. As she was saying that, I was like, I just bought a new pair of jeans for a lot of money. Like, oh no, like now in the future I'll be more aware of that and just use what I have. Like I have way too much stuff. So just get rid of stuff, put it toward good use, and then just turn off the lights. Remember, everybody, like you can do this. You can incorporate charity into your life, and I think it'll invite more love into your life too. I mean, that's what charity means, and just giving of yourself and looking outward. Any last words, Seema?
um, yeah, I don't. Well, I guess I do want to say something at the end. I don't want people to feel like they're bad people if they're not doing all of that, or if they've done, things that are contrary to it in the past. Don't feel bad, please, because one of the points of all of this is to feel good about life and Earth and yourself.
Mm,
So just plan to make a change, research, know what you're doing, be conscious about everything you do, everything you eat, everything you buy. Be more conscious, and yeah, and you'll be happier.
Yeah, and she lives that and she is so happy and she's so good at what she's talking about. So, Seema, thank you for your example and thank you for sharing your wisdom. I learned so much and I cannot wait to talk about this more with other people and be more charitable and start putting
Yay.
some money into that. So, again, thank you so much, Seema.
Yeah,
And
thank you for having me.
as we say in Russian, до свидания.
До свидания. Пока-пока.
Пока. Bye, everyone. See you next week.